This is the plaintiff, Andrew Dugan. He says he's known the defendant's husband since he was 4 years old, and not in a million years did he think they'd end up in court. He did some work for the lady and her husband, painting and that kind of thing, and they shorted him money. He was paid by the hour. He's still owed for 90 minutes of work, and friend or not, he wants his $287 here and now. This is the defendant, Robin Seabour. She says she kept a log of the amount of hours the plaintiff worked, and the guy's rounding every half hour he worked up to an hour, and that's where the discrepancy lies. The guy also showed up for work 15 minutes late every day, and he's trying to cheat them on the amount of time he worked. And she's not about to allow him to get away with it. No way, no how, no siree, Bob. She's accused of not watching the clock correctly.
All parties, please raise your right hands. Be seated. Come to order, please. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas. Andrew Dugan.
Yes, Your Honor.
You are suing Robin and Tom Seabour. You have power of attorney to represent. Mr. Seabour's not here?
Yes.
Right. For $287, $200 lost wages for 1 day of work, $50 that you paid your helper, and $37, which is the original dispute, over 90 minutes of work. Tell me what's going on.
Robin asked me to do some work at her house.
How do you two know each other?
Family friend. I've known her since I was like 4 years old. I've done work at her house numerous times before, never had a problem. She asked me to do some work on her house. I said, okay, I'll bill you for my hours and materials.
How much were you going to be billing her by the hour?
$25 an hour.
Okay. So what happens?
So when her husband went to pay me, he says, I'm leaving. I need to pay you. He says, I have you marked down for 34 and a half hours, I believe it was. And I said, well, I have myself marked down for 36. He's like, oh, well, I marked down every time you came into my house and left. And I was like, well, did you take into account that I was driving around before and after I left here for materials and tools and whatnot? And at that point, he just started getting very irate with me. And one thing led to another. We bantered back and forth. He said, get the out of my house. I said, okay.
Wait. Are these your parents?
No, this is my girlfriend's mother and stepfather.
Mother and stepfather. All right. And how is it you say that you two knew each other?
His parents were friendly, very friendly with my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law lived with me for 14 years.
Okay. And over an hour and a half, which represents $37?
Hour and a half.
You guys are here?
Honestly, I'm not a rich man. I can't afford to wash my hands of a day's work because
early in that day, he wants to pay you before he goes out of town, and there's an hour and a half discrepancy.
Yes.
And then it gets heated, and then it gets ugly,
and
then it's get off my property,
yeah,
and then there's no work that day.
Get the out of my house and get your stuff. Also, I paid a helper $50 for the day for the half an hour he helped me clear my tools out of the house. So I promised the kid that I'd have him work for the day. I had to give him at least half a day's wage.
Who's the one keeping tabs of his hours at the house?
Well, both of us. He would every day. My husband was home more than I was during this time, and he would ask Andrew every day, when did you come and when did you leave? And then I have my calendar, and he would mark it on the calendar.
Who would?
My husband would. So he marked down the hours. The very first day, there was a discussion about lunch. Do we pay him for lunch or not? And we're not under the idea that we'd pay him for his lunch hour.
Lunch isn't the discrepancy, though. What's the discrepancy? According to you, the discrepancy is whether you went beforehand to pick up tools, or no, you just think he miscounted, period.
You
just think he purely miscounted and isn't taking into account these times.
Her husband was logging my hours that I was at his house. I was driving around, getting materials.
When were you driving around getting materials? Before getting there?
Before getting there in the morning and after work. Even on my lunch. I take lunch, I go to Home Depot, get stuff for their house, go get a slice of pizza and go back to work.
On your husband's count, was he paying him for lunch?
Yes, we were paying for lunch.
And you expected them to pay you for lunch?
Yes.
And we did, and there was a discussion the first day. What did you work, Andrew? Andrew said, well, I went to Home Depot first, so we paid him from 10 to when he left. The discrepancy of the hour and a half occurred that Andrew on 3 days left at 4:30.
And
from
he
10
was
to 4:30.
So what are you saying, that he was counting it as working till 5?
Correct.
He would round a half hour to an hour?
He discussed that. He said that when I work, if I work a half an hour, I will charge you for a full hour.
Did
And
that
was the
discussion
discrepancy.
take place?
I don't remember exactly what I said. I said probably a million things. You know how it is in the heat of passion. I was freaking out, and I was just.
So yes, you did say if I work half an hour, I charge you an hour?
I may have said something like that, but I didn't mean it
Why
like that.
would that be okay?
Welcome back to the People's Court. Harvey Levin here. So how much is the least amount of money that you would bother to go to small claims court, file a lawsuit?
$150.
$150. Okay, that's kind of odd. What do you think?
I'd say about $200.
$200. But this was a $37 case, by the way.
$200.
$200. Would you file for $100?
$40 because a guy in 5th grade still owes me that much and he hasn't paid me yet.
But you don't hold grudges.
No, I do
Oh,
not.
no. Going inside the courtroom.
If I'm at your house for 7.5 hours working, and I leave after like 7 hours and 36 minutes, am I going to bill you for 7.5 hours or 8 hours?
I don't know. I'd just tell you to stay until the 8 hours and then pay you 8. Or I wouldn't necessarily expect you to cheat me a half hour every day.
I don't think I was cheating a half hour any day. I kept track of what hours I was there. These are family friends. Are they gonna if I say I worked 36 hours because I was driving around and he's got me marked down for 34 and a half hours, I never thought in a million years that somebody over $37 would
Well, apparently
freak out to that
both of
level.
you freak out over $37.
I'm a very hard worker, Your Honor, and for somebody
Right,
to
so
stiff
you have
me
your
out of-
reasons to freak out, but at the end of the day, isn't it just amazing? Over $37, I'm horrified. Do your parents know you're here?
Yes.
Do the two parents that were
No,
friends?
it was my mother-in-law.
Mother-in-law?
Right. She passed away recently.
Okay,
But she loved you.
Yeah, you better fix that last one. Were you there, by the way, when they had their fight?
No. Judge Millie, I just want to say one last thing is that we allowed him to do things. One day he did leave to bid on another job, and we paid him during that time. It wasn't like we were trying to stick him. But if he worked till 4:30, that was when he worked till.
So what are you suing for? You're suing for the $37 plus the $50 that you paid your helper for that day. What time was it when the discussion takes place?
It was about 20 after 9, maybe 9:30.
So what did you do that day?
That day when I left her house,
Yeah.
I cleaned up all my tools. It took me about an hour to get my stuff out of there, maybe 45 minutes. I went to the bank. I cashed a check to make sure he didn't cancel the check on me. I drove all the way back and dropped my helper off, and that's it.
How do you figure amount lost for lost wages for one day of work, $200?
Because that's what I would have made if I had worked at her house or anywhere else that day that I should have been working. 8 hours, $25 times 8.
Did you leave at 4:30 3 times?
I don't have the exact number. I'm
So
going to
you said
possibly,
you
yes.
kept the track of the numbers. Did you keep track of the when you walked in and when you walked out, or you didn't keep track of when? Or
No,
you just
wait.
assumed it would be an 8-hour day every day?
No, I mean, I fluctuated. Like, I had it marked down a couple days. I worked 6 or 7 hours. I marked that down.
Can I see where you marked it down?
I don't have it. I don't have it with me. I had
Because you didn't think it would come up.
I had it written down on a piece of paper to have it. I know exactly how many hours I worked. I've been thinking about this since 2 months ago when this happened.
You know, if I had been in your shoes, I might say, you know what? I got this guy about to bust a vein because he's nuts. Maybe I got my helper here anyway. I'd rather make the $200 for today. Let me just let this one slide. And from now on, we both sign something. Because you keep saying you don't know her husband, but what is your excuse? Stop, listen to me. You are jobless at the moment. You have nowhere else to go. You have $50 invested in the guy next to you. Maybe this is one of those times when you just say, let's be real careful next week about signing things about the hours so we don't have any more problem, and then just keep working and finish the job there. Especially if you need the money, instead of you blowing, let it, the cost, kind of a customer's always right. Yes, thank you, sir. Okay. You know what? We'll both sign something when I come and go from now on, so neither one of us feel cheated. And then that's it. It's
Your
the end of
Honor,
the day.
at the time of the discussion, I was just freaking. I mean, I couldn't fathom the fact that he was refusing to pay me $37, and they were getting a huge discount on a price that anybody else would have given him, and he's got the audacity to short me out of $37, and I was just I couldn't believe it. Like if it was a stranger, I wouldn't have said anything. I would have just sucked it up. But the fact that it was somebody I knew since I was 4 years old, it really hurt me. I don't know what else to say. It just made me freak out. I don't know what else to say.
Priceless. I love small claims. I love small claims. As a lawyer, I did death penalty litigation. As a judge, I handled murders and robberies and lawsuits worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. I have never enjoyed anything as much as I enjoy you folks. And do you know why? Because it's not the $37. It's the principle. It's the principle. I just love it. You know? How much did you pay to file this case?
$21, I believe.
You paid $21. I once had somebody pay $87 for a $5 case. I almost kissed him. Is this a great country or what?
Fantastic.
I'm going to rule in your favor, but not in the amount that you want. You didn't work that day. You had a disagreement with your employer. I'm not going to order $200 paid to you. I'm also not going to order the $50 paid to you for the same reason, because you had a disagreement with your employer at the beginning of the day, and he can fire you at will. I am going to order these people to pay you the $37. Okay? And your filing fee. That is my verdict.
Thank you.
You just won $37. What are you going to do now?
Oh, man, I think I'm going to go play the lottery. I feel lucky.
Well, this was all about the principle. You fought hard for this. It means a lot. And that argument, the emotion you tried to describe, why was it so meaningful for you?
Because I'm a hard worker, and for somebody to basically try to rip me off for $37 just made me angry.
Since you were 4 years old, you've been friends with this guy.
No, I wouldn't say friends. I've known him since I was 4 years old.
And so over this $37, that's all over now?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I could.
You'd rather have the $37 than
I'd
that
much
friend.
rather have the $37.
You got it.
All right, this way, guys.
All right, and so that brings us to you. And what's your feeling on what he just got away with there? That $37 on
That's
you.
fine. I feel badly for that it came to this, but
Why not just pay it and avoid this?
I wasn't there. My husband made the decision, and we did pay him for the hours worked. And
He's probably watching right now. What do you want to say to him? He's not here, but he's watching.
I didn't win everything, Tom.
Harvey?
Bottom line here is you cannot get money for time off work when you go to court. You should factor that in when you think about suing. That will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.